Hi all, what's going on? I'm Ezrato. I hope you're all doing well. Today I wanted to do something a little different. I wanted to share with you a production breakdown for a remix I released around this time last year, namely my remix of the Astro Bot trailer theme. Now, I assume if you're watching this video, you've probably already heard that remix. If not, I'll link it down in the description below. But for those of you who have listened, I just wanted to start by saying a massive thank you for all of your support on that remix. Recently, it surpassed 200,000 views, which is just crazy for this channel, honestly. So yeah, massive thank you for that, and for all of your support on the Astro Bot piano tutorials as well, for that matter. They've been doing really well. Anyways, it happens this remix just happened to turn 1 year old as of this week, at least by the time I upload this. So with all of that in mind, I thought it would be a cool idea to do a little behind the scenes look just at how I made it, I guess. So yeah, I guess we'll just jump right into things. So the catalyst for this remix was really a set of plugins, or a virtual instrument library, I guess you'd say, from this company called East West. And what they've done is they've created this library of orchestral instruments that you can basically play using your keyboard or with MIDI. So basically what they've done is they painstakingly recorded all of these instrument sections across the orchestra, and they painstakingly recorded every single note of every single instrument section at, varying levels of dynamics and with instrument-specific articulations. So in layman's terms, what that means is you can basically play any of these, instruments with a MIDI keyboard, and, you're getting actual live recordings as you're playing it. So you get a really realistic orchestral sound. So I've been subscribed to this company, East West, for a while now. I've been using their piano Steinway for a bit. I've been, all of my tutorials basically been using this Steinway, and occasionally the Yamaha as well. But all of this orchestra stuff, it's very large in file size, so I was never actually really able to use it until recently when I got some new storage from my PC. And with that in mind, I just thought, what better use case for that than to create a remix of the Astro Bot trailer theme, because that theme happens to have a lot of orchestral sounds in it. And so I thought, I'll use this as a little test for a lot of these instruments. And that's really how it started. So yeah, basically what you're looking at here is my software FL Studio, which is the DAW I use, DAW meaning Digital Audio Workstation. This is sort of like, if you've ever heard of Pro Tools, Ableton, Cubase, Logic, this is like the equivalent of that, basically. I've been using this ever since I started producing. I really love it, honestly. I could make a whole video about why I love this DAW so much, but that's probably not what you're here for. So I thought we'd just start maybe by playing through the entire track. I will say, because I'm running OBS in the background, I don't know how it's going to go with my CPU load. If it does stutter at all, I'll probably just bounce out this entire thing and then add it in the edit, so you're not actually hearing it from the project file directly. But yeah, hopefully it goes fine. The other thing to keep in mind too is that everything you see here is stuff I've done, but it may sound a little bit different because this is before I got it mixed and mastered. So I actually don't do my own mixing and mastering. I mean, I do a bit of mixing, but a lot of the mixing and mastering I get done by another engineer, Fabio, shout out to him. So yeah, this is actually before all of that was done. So it may sound a little bit different, but anyway, all that being said, I think that's enough preamble. So let's just go ahead and have a listen. And there you have it. Yeah, so I apologize for the audio stutters there. I might still keep that in though. I don't think it was too bad. But yeah, you may notice also some instruments occasionally came in a little bit late. That's really just down to plugins, taking a while to activate because again, is a very CPU heavy project. So anyway, with all that being said, I thought it would be cool to just go stem by stem basically. As you can see here, what I've done is I've labeled each of these tracks by what they are. Full disclosure, I am not this organized when I am producing. Honestly, like so much of the time, I am just putting stuff anywhere. I really only do this when I'm actually exporting out the stems to get mixed and mastered. But when I'm producing, I do not do this at all. I am one of the world's messiest producers, no doubt. So I thought we'd just start with the drums maybe. To be honest, there's not a lot of really interesting stuff going on here. As you can see, a lot of it's really just samples and loops that I've got. I don't really program my own drums. I just feel like that takes too long and I prefer to get into the creative process as quickly as possible. Or, to hear something as quickly as possible. And when you're just kind of messing around creating drums, I feel like you're not really... like you're in that zone of creating drums. You're not really in the zone of creating a track. And I don't like things that distract me from creating a track, like that's, if I want to do that, I do it separately in my own time, outside of this. So yeah, I just tend not to do that. But yeah, otherwise it's pretty much samples. As you can see here, I've really just laid a lot. So I'll just play each track one by one, I guess, with first of all in the context of the full track, and then I'll solo it so you can sort of hear what's going on. Starting with this first part, which is the verse 1 build loop. So yeah, that's that. Now if I solo this, I've combined a lot of different samples into this one track because I thought they all sort of fit the same category when I was exporting them out, but on their own they sound like this. You can see I sort of repeated that last one twice because it sort of ended prematurely. I just kind of needed it to keep going. I tried pitching it up a little bit, even still you can sort of hear it just repeating. I mean, when it's playing the whole track, you don't notice it as much. Then we have the snares, which is nothing that exciting. If I play it at the same time, like, adds a bit more punch to the snare. We have some more snares. Sort of the classic, hip-hop kind of sounding thing. Which you can sort of do because we're in, 170 beats per minute, which is, I don't know, what, like 85 would be like a typical hip-hop tempo a lot of the time, so fits that perfectly. Then we've got more hats and snares, more sort of hats, I'd sort of call that, but... Oh, okay. Snares are there. In the context of everything else... And then orchestral drums. I often use that specific hits there. Really works well for impacts. And also at the beginning there was this one here too, which just the beginning of that section with the orchestra. So yeah, that's that whole section. And in the context of the full track again, that's pretty much like this. Alright, so now we'll just move on to this next part, which is the first part of the drop. So So yeah, there's not really a lot of drums going on here. I've only really got these 3 parts, but they are very strong samples. So if I just play these. Yeah, so that's pretty much it. And then everything else is just being shaped around that, as you'll see later on. Those drums really are at the forefront of the mix, and then everything sort of dips under them. But yeah, you'll see that later when I get to the melodic elements. Next up, we have the sort of drum and bass part of the drop, the second part of the first drop. Build up. Yeah, I apologize, by the way, for instruments coming in late. I think that's, yeah, mostly due to the fact that they're very high on the CPU load, and sometimes there's a little delay before they trigger. Anyway, this part is very dense in drums, as you can see here. I'll just play them by their own. So yeah, we have our core sort of kick and snare. This is very punchy, but then we add in the, you know... So yeah, in terms of just the loops, if I were to mute the rest, we've got just playing a lot of drum and bass stuff at once, which I don't know, might not be the most professional way to do it, but yeah, again, I'm a little lazy, so that's just what I did. Then we have a sweep here, along with some drum fills and an effect. I actually really like how this bit turned out, to be honest. Sorry, I'll just have these, just the drums playing again. I'll play from there. Yeah, this bit too, I was really happy with. This is sort of the second build up, I guess. Oof, that's some really bad. That stutter, sorry. That particular plugin is very, very high on CPU load. So yeah, drums alone though. Again, really was happy with this bit. Oops. Yeah, I mean, it kind of just continues that, builds a little bit more in texture. You may notice a little glitch effect, I think it was... Oh, maybe I went past it. Yeah, there. I'll show you that later when I get to the melodic elements, what plugin I use for that, because that's kind of cool. And then, yeah, getting towards the end here. Adding in some cymbals. I'll just skip to the end. Or, yeah. And I think there was some, oh yeah, here we go, the orchestral drums at the very end. Sorry, I just got to wait for it to save. It constantly is auto-saving. Yeah, you don't hear that entirely in the actual track. I mean, it's there, but... And yeah, for these orchestral drums, I did actually use an actual plugin, not just well, technically they are still samples, but it was a library though. For this one, okay, well this one was actually FL sampler, but then there's also this library here that I was mentioning earlier, the East West Hollywood stuff. And in this case, I was just using a drum kit. In fact, no, this one wasn't a Hollywood thing, it was just a Pro Drummer. So yeah, just using the drum kit here to create that little drum kit fill at the very end. So yeah, that's it there. Anyway, so those are pretty much all the drums in a track, and the effects and sweeps for the most part, I think. So we'll get right into the exciting part, at least for me, which are the melodic elements. So starting out, we have this little intro pad bass here. If you can, very understated. It's kind of just gradually builds there, nothing too complicated. So it's interesting, for this entire track, I really only used like, I don't know, I guess 3 different generators for like all of the melodic elements. So firstly, I use a plugin called Serum, which is like a synth. Then I use one called Flex, which I guess technically is a synth too, although it's slightly less customizable. This one actually comes with FL Studio, so comes with a lot of pre-programmed sound that you can manipulate, whereas Serum is more of a, create stuff from scratch or alter presets, which is what I often do. And then finally, I have the instrument libraries, which is what I was talking about in the beginning, which are the, the East-West stuff, so all of their orchestral libraries. So I got quite a number of those, but yeah, so I'll show you this one to begin with, I think. Let's see what this is made with. Okay, so this one is a mix of Opus, which is the East-West stuff. So that's the live instruments. You have some strings here. And then secondly, I had a bit of Serum as well. So, again, you can see here I've started from a preset. I can't remember how much I actually altered this one, but yeah, started with a preset here as well. And then combine those into that little pad you just hear in the intro, nothing too exciting. Moving on to the pad bass we have here. So if I would hazard a guess, if memory serves, I think I used, oh okay, I did use East-West a little bit here. Oh yeah, then that makes sense. That sounds, wait, have I actually got anything loaded here? Okay, maybe that's not playing. No, that, anyway, I do have some Serum here as well. So this is one of my own patches. Little deep orchestral brass pad. It's possible I initially created that from a preset, but I altered it enough to call it my own. Anyway, so that pretty much covers the entire intro, that little pad there as it builds up, if I unmute it all. Yeah, so that's that little pad there. What else we got in the intro? We have strings. So that's some East-West stuff there. Next we have some more strings, which are these chords that I have going. So yeah, you can see how just realistic this sounds. It's really impressive. That's why I love this library. And if I open the piano tutorial, you can also, sorry, the piano roll, you can also see the velocity in action. So, if I change these velocities, and that will alter the intensity of the strings. As you can see here, I've just got it turned right up. But if, you had them turned down here, then it would create a softer sound. I've really just automated the volume of it straight up with these kind of parameters here. You can see here. Well, actually, this appears to be altering the expression. So this is actually an articulation of the strings that are within the plugin. So again, you have access to these instrument-specific articulations, which is really cool. It just adds more realism to it. Then after that, we have, let's see, over here, is I automating much? No, not really, just... Yeah. So that's obviously in the build-up again. Okay, so it just occurs to me that I skipped a bunch of stuff. We also have the sub bass, so getting into the basses now. This is the bass that plays during the first drop, so this part here. So just play the sub here. Nothing too exciting, but this is really just filling out the low end. You probably won't even hear this if you're not wearing headphones, but anyway. Next we have the main bass. So once again, this is created using Serum, if memory serves. Where are we? This one here. Sorry, this one here. Yep. Once again, created from a preset because I am lazy and I am not a sound engineer so much as a arranger. So yeah, just probably altered this one a little bit. I mean, you know what, I'll give you a little rundown of how exactly this works. So basically the way Serum works is that you have these two oscillators here. So these create different sounds based on these wave shapes. So for instance, this one here creates that sort of sound. I mean, if I turn off all the effects at least, turn off the sub as well and the noise and the filter. I can't remember. Oh, I might have some effects actually on this too. 36. Yeah, okay. Well, those just mostly mixing effects. So anyway, I'll leave those on. So yeah, this kind of shape is what's creating that sound. I've got some unison as well, so we just turn that down. That's basically that sound, and I've put it down an octave. So I put it at the current octave. So as you can see, it sounds very primitive once you turn off those all the effects and parameters. So I'll switch all that back. So down an octave with 8 levels of unison. Sorry, just saving. Let it do that. So unison is basically if you want multiple voices of that same wave shape, then you can have all of that, and you can expand them so it's very detuned, like widen them, I should say. Which sounds pretty awful in this context, so I'll just put all that back to around, I think it was around there, I think. I mean, not exactly, but whatever. And then we had the sub on top of that, so that's just, again, another sub bass, which I'm not actually using as a sub in this context. It's actually filling out the higher end, ironically. And then oscillator B, which, as you can see, in this case, I've used a lot of unison, which is giving it that sort of slightly detuned sound, even though the detune's actually down pretty low. But if I would turn all that down, you'd hear, once again, very kind of dull sound, but adding all that unison really thickens it. And then once I put all those oscillators on together, yeah, and the filter, by the way, here, this is giving it reverb in this context. So usually this is kind of, you know, if you were to use it in a more basic sense, this is just like cutting off frequencies, which technically is what it's doing here still, but it's also, obviously in this patch, they've created something quite complex, which is giving it a real reverb quality, rather than just, you know, simply cutting off basic frequencies. Yeah, obviously I didn't make this patch, so I'm just, you know, learning as I go, really just looking at what they've done here. Again, I may have altered it slightly, I can't quite remember. Anyway, also from memory, they had these ones on, I think it was. So hyperdimension. So without it. Just expanding it a little bit in the stereo field, I suppose. Compressor, which in this context tames it a little bit with a multiband compression. Distortion, in case it wasn't already enough. mean, that's pretty subtle, but chorus, filter, which is again similar to what this is, but just an additional one over here. And I think that was all the ones I had on. Anyway, so I'll just show you for that patch anyway. That's basically how Serum works, little, you know, rundown for you. They also have these envelope controls, but they don't seem to be using, well, they're using this one here. I'm not sure what parameters these are holding, but anyway, so yeah, that's very, very basic rundown of how Serum works. Yeah, they don't really have too many parameters going here, just LFO, controlling the warp and wavetable position. Okay, so that's, yeah, right, you can see how this one here, that's what this is controlling, so it's moving this parameter. So you can have, like, you know, instead of, you know, moving these dials yourself, you can attach these little LFOs and envelopes to these parameters, so it moves it for you, and you can control the shape. So if I wanted to move it, like, very quickly, I could put it up, and it'll just, like, instantly turn it way up, but the way they had it set was that it would gradually move like that. Anyway, that's a lot of technical info, so I won't bore you anymore with that. Let's just move right along with the rest of the remix here. So moving on. Oh, sorry, I forgot to mute these again. 39. Okay, so yep, same thing there. So what's going on here now is something called sidechain compression, which is what I alluded to earlier. So basically the way this works is that every time one of these kicks or snares hit, the volume of this bass ducks. So you can hear that effect going, which on its own sounds really weird and, like, not pleasant, but when you add it to the rest of the track, or if I unmute the kicks again, you can see in that context it makes more sense, because it's like when the kicks hit, the bass ducks, and a lot of other stuff ducks too, because I've sidechained a lot of stuff in this track. That just really helps the mix, because when you have, like, a kick is obviously very loud, it's at the forefront of the mix, and so if you have other loud elements going at the same time as that kick, then it just really muddies the mix. So by having the sidechain compression, it just solves that issue. And, you know, in the context of the whole track, you don't notice it heaps, because your ears just hear the kick and you hear those frequencies, and then that fills out that frequency range. So you don't need to have the bass going at the same time, because it's just filling out the same frequency range. In my case, you know, these kicks are very, you know, quite bright. So it's not just covering the low end, it's also covering the high end, which is why I've also, you know, sidechained a lot of other elements to the kick as well. And it just overall helping with, you know, the gain, you know, just ducking overall volume when the kicks are on just really helps with the mix overall. So that's pretty much what that is. I will mute that again. Anyway, I don't know if we changed the bass. It's pretty much just that one the whole way through. Yeah, I think it's pretty much... So yeah, as you can see, again, like, on their own, these sounds just really don't sound that amazing. It's more when you put it together in the mix that it starts to sound anywhere near decent. Okay, moving on to this next part. This is something kind of fun. This is what's called a vocoder. So this is the part, the actual singing in the track of the... I am Astro. I am Astro Bot. Astro Bot. I am Astro Bot. Believe it or not, there's no AI or anything going on here. This is actually my own voice, and I've heavily altered it, obviously, to sound like a robot, to sound like Astro, I guess, in the original. So the way this works is that I combine the original recording of my voice with some synthesis, and then use a little plugin called a vocoder, which sort of like merges the two and like into one thing. It's kind of hard to explain, but if I show you, you'll see what you mean. See what I mean. So first of all, we have just the raw audio, which is me singing. So if I just turn off all the effects, it's going to be kind of embarrassing, but I'll turn down the pitch. So this is how it sounded, just me So you can see I may have auto-tuned it. Oh, actually, I don't know if I auto-tuned it. It sounds a little bit auto-tuned. Anyway. So that's just me. I can show you the other parts too, I guess. Oops.
Astro.
So yeah, really not sounding too good there. Not much of a singer. Anyway, so first thing I did was pitch it up by about 500 cents. So
Astro.
So that makes it sound, I guess, a little cuter.
Astro.
Then second thing was to put it onto this vocoder track. So we'll put that back onto that mixer track there. And this one as well. And then you combine that with the serum patch. So here.
Astro.
So if we go into the plugin here that I've used, it's track 32. Vocodex here. So this is the plugin I use for vocoding.
Astro.
So what this is doing, it's combining with these notes here that you hear. I don't know if it's actually gonna... Yeah, no, that's not gonna actually play. But this is like a little patch I've created in Serum. So this is like a synthy sound. So if I turn this off the mixer track real quick, so you can see that's the source of what I'm combining with the vocals. Whoops, I'll switch it. Yeah, so that's what's going on there. And then when I put that onto the vocoder track, then it combines that with my vocals and turns it into like a robot kind of sounding thing here.
Astro.
Really cool. I love this plugin. It's so cool. Anyway, we obviously have the main breakdown here too.
Astro Bot. Astro Bot.
So this really gives that Daft Punk effect. This is basically this what Daft Punk do in all their kind of vocoded tracks. Not necessarily using this same plugin, but same technique anyway. All right, so that's that. Moving on to the intro ensemble, which really is just this intro part here. Yep, so nothing too exciting, just some strings, and I think I just used a straight up ensemble. Okay, so I already showed you the strings for the most part, although there were some parts I think I missed earlier, so let's just play through some of those bits. Well, first of all, there were these parts. I can't remember if I showed you that already. So these are some gated part of the strings, so for this I am using something called Gross Beat. And what this essentially is that it's like a plugin that gates stuff, so it creates a sort of rhythmic effect. If I were to show you, I think I put that on, yeah, just here. So you can see what this is doing is it's... I mean, you can't really hear it well because there's a lot of sidechain going on as well, but basically it's creating these gaps, so it's like that kind of effect. Anyway, I'll show you more of that later because I have that same effect on some other plugins. I thought I'd show you this bit that's kind of interesting because I can give you a bit of idea of how the piano roll works. So when I'm inputting these notes into MIDI, this is basically how it works. So you have this piano roll here, and this is what I use for all my tutorials, by the way. But basically the vertical side represents the pitch, and then the horizontal side represents the time and duration. So you can see here, each of these notes would represent, at least in how long they last before the next note starts, like a semiquaver. So, yeah, some of them are slightly less, but yeah. So it's like each one of these lines here, where I'm putting the notes here, that's like one crotchet beat. If I put on the metronome, you can sort of see, switch the pattern. 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4. So you can see, again, there's a bit of visual delay because I've got the buffer rate up high, but when that's like 1 bar, 2 bars, 3 bars, 4 bars, and there's 1, 2, 3, 4, 2, 2, 3, 4, 3, 2, 3, 4, 4, 2, 3, 4. So this is obviously set to 4/4, the time signature, which means that there's 4 crotchet beats per bar. And then within that, then you have, obviously semi-quavers, basically. So half of that beat would be like a quaver, and then half of that again, half of that value is like if, one of these per every three cells, that's like a semi-quaver. Sorry, that should be a quaver. That's like a semi-quaver. Anyway, so that's how I do all of my tutorials anyway, is just by plotting them out like that. You can also create chords, like if you stack stuff like that. It's a bit higher for the strings, but, it means you stuff playing at the same time. So that's essentially the fundamentals of how you arrange stuff. And again, I really love the software here. In the case of the piano roll, I think FL Studio's piano roll is just second to none. It just really feels very robust and not like an afterthought. And so if you are someone who is interested in creating piano tutorials, I would really highly recommend this software, because I think, again, the piano roll is one of this program's best features, in my opinion. There's so many things you can do with it as well that I hardly even ever touch, but yeah. Anyway, so that's that little melody there. We'll move on from the strings. We've got some brass here. I'll turn the metronome off. Once again, using East-West's plugins or instrument libraries here. Appeared to have used the orchestrator, maybe? I'm not entirely sure. To be honest, it's been so long since I've used this plugin because I haven't really done any of my own composing. Well, at least not with these plugins since this, which is like a whole year ago. So, I learned it back then, but it's a bit foggy now. Anyway, so that was that. I think I have some more. That's carrying a lot of the melody in this part here, obviously. You can't really hear it much there, but that's just kind of giving little brass stabs. And then a little bit at the end. Okay, moving on to the choir. So this is the fun part here. Okay, this is very soft, so you can hardly hear it, but little intro there. You probably hear it more here. Maybe. Yeah. Okay, so this is probably a better spot to show you how gross beat works. So basically, if I find where this is on the mixer track, 21, as you can see here how bad my organization is of this stuff. If I organize this better, I could find these mixer tracks a lot quicker. But basically, this is that same plugin I showed you before, and this is, you can see more how it works here because you'll probably be able to hear it actually. You can see what it's doing is this little, it's not quite a gate, because a gate is usually, I mean, as far as I know, I think it's when it fully ducks to like 0. But when you have a tremolo like this, it's kind of just ducking to that point, and it's got these kind of, it's shaped in a way that makes it sound like someone's singing through a fan almost. It's kind of quite a unique effect. So yeah, I just did that because I thought it, adds a bit more of a synthetic sound to something that is actually real. Like, all these choirs are actually real recorded people, I believe. And then this is probably one of the most interesting parts of the track, I'd say. If I put that all so this is highly shaped. So to explain what I'm doing here, basically, first of all, you'll notice that these are actual samples as opposed to the plugin that I'm using here. Like if I show you here, the plugin, this is like the East West Hollywood Choir plugin. But what I've done here is actually exported out out some samples from that plugin, because I found that it really, when you have the plugin, it just kind of, there's quite a slow attack on the vocals. It's subtle, but it's not like instant. Like as soon as a note on that hits, the vocals don't immediately start. And that's kind of what I wanted it to do in this bit here, because this bit here is meant to be really punchy. And as soon as you have that kick drop, if I turn on it all, boom, you want it to be like boom, boom. And like as soon as that kick drops, you want the vocals just immediately start, be like dun, 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 you know? So I couldn't afford to have that delay with the attack there in the vocals here. Even if you turn down the attack completely on the choir, there's always still a bit of like, you know, delay with the attack. So what I did was I just exported, like say, you know, some chords like that, not this one exactly, but then what I do is I like start the sample about halfway through, like around there. So it's just as soon as you're, you know, that sample starts, you're getting audio signal, which is what I wanted. Anyway, probably the more interesting thing though here are these automation clips. So these clips are controlling the volume of the choirs. So if you can see here the way this is being shaped, if you just look at this automation clip here, Opus 43, again, there's a bit of delay with the visual and audio because of the buffer rate being high, but the idea is like dun, dun, and then it ducks, and then dun, 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 and then, yeah, so if you just follow it. So, yeah, I don't know if you can really see that. It might help if I show you the actual mixer track, which I believe was on 24. So you can see what that's doing here. So this this automation clip here is controlling this fader here, which is controlling the volume, obviously. And that's how I sort of create that rhythmic structure. And it's not just being applied to the choir, it's also being applied to the main orchestra. Same kind of thing going. I can't remember if I had it under the same fader, but it's doing the same thing anyway. And then you'll notice here there's a bit of gating going on. You can see gross beat here, once again doing this little effect here. So that's what that's doing. And yeah, I think that there was also a bit of free filter I had at some point, wherever that was. If I just show you here. So what this is doing is it's like a low pass, so it cuts out like the high frequencies when this goes down. You probably notice it, like, yeah, more something like there. Sorry, I've got this, I should probably detach this so it doesn't keep disappearing. So like from here, you can hear the wah sound. That's like what happens when you do like a low pass, you know, frequency cut in like that. Like wah. I just really love that sound. And you hear it more there. It's just really fun to play with. Whenever I can use that, I love to. Same with gross beat. It's just really fun plugins to play with and just instantly give you an interesting sound with a lot of character. So yeah, and then here, got more gating going on here. Whatever mixer track that's assigned to. Once again, I've pretty terrible with my organization. 40. Oh, okay. Yeah, you can see that's the gating there, where between, like if I turn that off, you can hear there's just straight, but with the gating. It's like dun 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 dun. Yeah, I think if I put the attack down and the release down, you hear it more. Yeah, you can hear it there a lot more. I didn't want it to be that extreme though, so I just kind of left it. I just turned the attack and release up a bit. So just more of a subtle effect. And yeah, I think that's just about everything with the... Oh, actually, no. One crucial thing I wanted to show you with the choir. And this is pretty cool. is within the plugin itself, actually. So if I show you, I think it was this one here. Yeah, what I've done here, there's like within the plugin, there's a word builder, just these, and they're not actually saying words. They're just like, you know, vowels and consonants. But you can basically type these out, and they will sing exactly this. Like you can't quite get full stuff that sounds like actual words, but you can get kind of, you know, gibberish vowels and consonants. And what I did here was I went and listened to the original track and tried to ascertain like exactly what the vowels they were singing were in the original track, and then I wrote them out here. So this is actually should be, you know, kind of accurate, at least a rough approximation of what the original track is. If you really intently listen to the original trailer theme and listen to this part of it where they're singing the like the I mean, you hardly notice it in my version because the vocals don't cut through the mix as much as they do in the original. I just couldn't seem to get them to do that without it sounding weird. But you can hear he ta he he ha ti he ho ti hos. Yeah, so you can hear that they're singing those consonants. So anyway, just something I thought was pretty cool. And yeah, next up we got the intro harp, which is not really much. Just once again, that's an east-west plugin going there. I think it was part of the orchestra. Kind of cool they included that since it's just a solo instrument of the orchestra, but you know, still important, I guess. Next up, main orchestra. This is really cool. Within the Hollywood Orchestrator, I believe, they have... there's this thing you can do where you can just include like an entire ensemble at once, and then it just adds like all of these instruments at once, which means that when you go to the piano roll, you can just play a note, and it just plays like the whole orchestra at once. So it makes it so quick and easy to get like a really thick orchestral sound without having to manually go and add all of the instruments yourself. Obviously, you know, you lose kind of a bit of fine-tune control to an extent with doing that. But if you just wanted instant big orchestral sound, that's a great way to do it. So that's obviously part of the intro there. Although I think I used it throughout the whole track. I mean, I showed you that bit before where it was doing that same little volume ducking as the choir sound earlier. So I'll just wait for this to save again. Yeah, like this bit. So yeah, same technique I was using on the choir earlier that I showed you. Then sidechain, again on its own it sounds weird, but with the kick it makes sense. One other thing I'll highlight here is this reverse orchestral stab, which I added in just here. So you can see this is basically a reverse of that. So I just reversed it and then used it as a sort of build up into the next part of the piece. So if you listen to it with everything, it just kind of goes into that next bit. Yeah. Anyway, that pretty much is it for the gated orchestra, I think. Yeah, not that that bit was really gated, but anyway. Orchestral stabs. You can hear the very aggressive sidechain on this, and I suppose the more professional way to do it would just be to, you know, permanently EQ out the frequencies that are competing with the kick and snare, but I don't know. I was very aggressive on the sidechain for some reason with this. This bit I was really happy with. I think something I kind of created that was new, that wasn't really in the original track at all. I mean, there were a lot of things, I guess, that weren't in the original track, but this was probably where I got the most creative and wanted to create a sort of new rendition of the boss theme that plays during the trailer theme. And as you can see, these are the plugins that were really causing issues with the CPU with everything else. I could probably turn the buffer length up and then that would fix this, but I don't know, that's going to mess with the audio recording. Yeah, so that's that. Use a bit of growth speed on that as well. Woods and metals, this is... I used this very early on in the piece, and I mean, I kind of just left it in there, but originally this was going to be way more prominent, and then they just sort of like, you know, wasn't really something that really mattered, but I left it in there because it adds a little bit of something. That's it. That's literally the whole stem. Like that, when that bit plays. Like, you can hardly even hear it, I mean, but it's there. I think that's pretty much it. Or maybe at the end there's something here. Okay, that's a different thing entirely. I think I used Flex for that one, which I'll show you here. No, sorry. Oh no, I didn't. Okay, I did use another instrument library. For some reason, it's not loaded up here. I never really know how like contacts. Okay, no, there it is. That's how you get there. Yeah, I'm used to the old player, and this is Contact 7. Anyway, so yeah, I used this hybrid keys, mixing Dream Roads and Beastly Organ together. No, actually, no, I didn't. I just used the Dream Roads. I love this library for when you just want kind of bell sounds. You can, you know, bit crush it a little bit. You know, worry about cutoff and, you know, just a few simple parameters. Yeah, so that's that. Main synths. This would, I would say, definitely be a Serum patch. Yeah, so this is kind of meant to mimic the orchestra that's playing as well, and just provide a little bit more thickness, because oftentimes with orchestra what happens is that it doesn't always fill out the high end completely, and in other genres of music that's fine. Like if you just want straight orchestral music, there's really no issue with that. But if you do want something that's more sort of EDM centric, then it is better a lot of the time, especially in EDM that's very bright, to, you know, you want to fill out the high end. And the main orchestra on its own, if you listen, it just doesn't quite, it's you know, it's still in the upper registers, but it's not quite there, whereas this, you know, you're really getting the high frequencies. So that's really what that's there to do, just fill out that orchestra even more. Then, yeah, I think, yeah, we're just using that same patch. Let me just check if that was Serum. I'm pretty sure. Yeah, more Serum. And you can see I've just used the preset here from Synth Hacker. Another great person to get presets and stuff from. Especially, like, yeah, all his Serum stuff I've used in the Futura pack. A lot of great options here. Yeah, I mean, I don't always just leave them as they are, and, you know, not do anything with them. I do try and like to change things up a little bit to fit my specific track. Sometimes though they are just so great that I do just leave them as is and not really do much with them. But yeah, that was a mix of that one, I believe, and this one, which is also from Synth Hacker. Yeah, so we got, if you were to play them separately, it would be like, and then the other one, so very different, but together, yeah, so that's what you're getting from that. And yeah, I mean, that's, you know, playing here. And during the middle too. Speaking of filling out the top end, I did that even more during these bits. This was, especially these bits, was pretty much exclusively just for filling out the top end of the mix, because it just really does make it sound a lot fuller and complete. You can see it's hardly even there for the melodic element of it, you know. You could almost just put white noise, although I think the synth gives a better effect and, you know, mixes better with the rest of the track because it does sound like an actual instrument in a way. Yeah, so once again, this is most likely Serum too, I'm guessing. I use Serum for like 90% of my synth work. Yeah, in fact, I'm even using that same preset there again. Have a few serums here muted. A lot of this stuff I just don't end up using, and then I'm just too lazy to delete it, or I'm too worried that I'll want to come back to it, and so I just don't bother deleting it. So I end up with a very long channel rack, which, you know, I could easily organize a lot better if I wanted to. Yeah, and it's at the end too. This might be hard to hear if you're not wearing headphones or listening through a really good sound system, but you know, it just helps fill out the mix. Next up, we come to the ARP, which is another one of my favorite parts because you can get really a little bit more intricate melodically. Some people might, you know, use like an arpeggiator like within their plugin, because you can actually within plugins like Serum program it's so that when you press a single note on your keyboard or in the piano roll, then it just automatically turns that into an arpeggio. But personally, I like more fine-tuned control. I mean, you probably still could have fine-tuned control, but I don't know. I'm just not technically minded enough to program it into the extent that I want to with, you know, Serum or whatever it is that I'm using. So I just prefer to just write it out, you know, in the piano roll like that. This is, I believe something like that may have been in the original track. Don't quote me on that, could be wrong. I think, I mean, at least in some point during the trailer theme, I think there was some arpeggiators going, but yeah, I have to listen to it again just to double check on that. So yeah, for this though, I wasn't using Serum, I was using Flex with one of these presets from the Arc Sun Cityscape pack. So yeah, that's that, and that would be going with the first little intro there. Just helps it sound a little busier and, you know, not just having those sustained chords the whole time. And I think I use it again. Oh yeah, another ARP here. Probably my favorite one. I really love this preset too, especially with the reverb. It just sounds so nice. Did I use... Okay, yeah, that's a preset. I'm very preset heavy. But yeah, this is what I put out in the piano roll for this one. I think this was definitely in the original track. I'm like 90% sure. So yeah, that's sort of going during the second drop, obviously. So. Okay, now finally we come to the electric guitar section. So this is interesting. What I've done with the electric guitars is a mix of both artificial, well, I don't know if, to be honest, if it's artificial or was actually sampled from a real electric guitar. Can't say for certain because I used it from the Flex pack here, which I don't know how they made these. But yeah, I'm using this preset anyway from the Flex Essential Guitars Dark Star Metal. So that's... So I know that bit mightn't sound that great with this preset because it's just the articulations just aren't short enough to really get the full melodic element of it. You know, just kind of starts with the pluck, and then before it can really, you know, have any sort of decay, then it just is immediately onto the next note. That's why later on I laid in the real guitar. I'll get to that soon. Secondly, though, I did have another layer of artificial guitar, if it is artificial. So this was probably more artificial, I'd say. Yeah, I'm not even from a guitar pack on this one. And again, got some gross beat on the master with that bit. When you hear those glitch sounds together, though, that's... Oh, hang on a minute. I forgot to show you the lead synths. Okay, well, you know what? I'll finish up with the guitars first, then I'll go on to the lead synths. So yeah, I don't know if this was any better with the melodic elements here too. Yeah, so when you have this one, it's... yeah, because there's not like a pluck on it as much, it makes it easier to just get straight into the melodic quality of those notes, which helps you hear it a lot more. You know, it's just that. Like those... It's just not... You still hear it, but with this just... Yeah, so that helps a bit, but really what's helping the most is this actual real guitar that I paid someone to do. It's only for this, when the second part of it, or I guess the main drop. And I do hate to ruin the illusion, but I did speed this up because playing that apparently is really, really hard. And so, yeah, I just sped it up a little bit. Yeah, I don't know. I put that on... what have I got? Okay, all I've really done with it is added some stereo widening and, yeah, bit of compression, so not much. Anyway, so those are the guitars, obviously in the full context of the track, you know. I mean, and all together I just play all the guitars together. And you know, that articulation with that sort of pitch bend, I don't know what you call that officially, but like that's something I really couldn't achieve with at least, you know, this guitar library, and certainly not with, well, you know, I could probably achieve that electronically, but not in a live setting like this. So yeah, that really helped with that. Anyway, I'll get to the synths now that I missed those. So first of all, you have this one, which could either be Serum or Flex. I can't quite remember. Okay, looks like it's Serum. Yep, another preset here, and one here. So that's two. That's the first one. I think I got that one from a Daft Punk library, actually. Not an official Daft Punk library, just like a tribute preset library. You can sort of see it has, you can hear that it has that kind of quality that they go for with the sort of Vox effects. And then the other one, oh sorry, hang on a minute. Oh, okay, they're both from that library, I think. Oh no, maybe this one isn't. I don't know. I can't remember. No, this one wouldn't be. I just like the pitch bendy sound of that one though. They go pretty well together, I think. Then we have the first drop, which I believe I changed the synths up for this bit. And once again using Serum for this with another preset. Have a little some counter chords here, or supporting chords. Oh no, it's pretty much the same thing. Mostly. Yeah, that was using... Oh, did I use Contact for that? What was I using? Oh, okay, hybrid keys, there you go. Wouldn't have expected that. And actually Flex as well. So, that's for that little supporting bit. And... So I guess... So yeah, using Flex for all that, but then the main synth you're probably hearing is Serum there. So yeah, this is really where we have the supporting harmony, which I'm using a different plugin. In a way, this is kind of an orchestral technique where you have different parts of the harmony being played by different instruments. You know, for instance, with strings, you'll often have like the first violin section be playing like the top melody, and then you'll have like the, you know, second violins play like the melody below that, and then if you have another, sorry, the harmony below that, and then if you have another harmony, you know, you might have like violas playing that, and then the cello, whatever the plural of cello is, I can't remember, below that, celli, I don't know how you say that. Anyway. So that's kind of what I was going for here, but using synths instead of orchestral elements. And you know, they are obviously different synths too, so I think it's gonna be... Oh, okay, no, I stand corrected. I was actually using the same synth. Unless I made some changes, like I don't know why I would have just doubled, like cloned it if it's the exact same. Must be some changes or like something different about it. I mean, okay, well, who knows? Maybe that was completely pointless, but if I didn't do that, that's a cool idea anyway. I mean, maybe I did it. Did I do it down? What are these Opus ones though? Hang on. Oh, okay. Did I do it with those and those? So those are two different things, which is kind of pointless. And then those are different. Okay. Yeah, no, those are the exact same pretty much. Okay, I don't know why I did that, but there you go. That's a cool technique you can do anyway, even though I clearly did not do that. This is good here though, because this is pretty much supporting the electric guitars, and they do kind of merge very well with the electric guitars because again, it's got that sort of obnoxious sound to it, which fits that electric guitar quality. And you know, that's doing a lot of the heavy lifting before I actually introduce the real guitar. You know, it fits very well with the real guitar too, I think. Very distorted. That's not actually it clipping or distorting because I'm clipping or anything, like that is part of the actual patch, that distortion. Which again, helps fill out a lot of the top end. Anyway, I think that's... I think that's pretty much it. Yeah, so I guess we do have these... I'm not going to play that. That's the actual original track. In FL Studio, the program I'm using, you can separate stems using AI. So you can get like the original track, and then if you use the If I go extract stems from sample, and you can select the stems that you want, like drums, instruments, vocals, and bass, and then it'll automatically listen to that original track and find, like separate each of those elements from the track so you can play them individually. Again, I'm not going to do that here because I don't want to get copyright claims, but that really helps me, ascertain what all the elements of it are. I would really love if you could do that more intricately, and like pick out synths from, live instruments, or, different instruments within a track that has live instruments, for instance. But even still, it's nice to just, hear, say, if I want to hear the instruments without the drums or without the vocals, or without the bass, then I can do that. And that helps me pick up what's in the original track a lot more, which really helps with the remix. And with all my tutorials, that's what I do as well, because it really helps me single out all the melodic elements. We will check out these as well. I didn't really have a proper listen to these. Yeah, so that's obviously an earlier idea I had, didn't really amount to anything. That was originally going to be something that was going to be like a really trippy kind of drop, that, again, didn't really get very far. Just didn't think it sounded interesting enough. That's nothing, it's just a bunch of loops. Didn't really get anywhere with that. This, what do we got here? Okay, yeah, nothing really too exciting either. Okay, we got some stuff here. Let me just see what this... I don't know if this is all unmuted and set up correctly, but we'll see. Oh, that's right. I did have like a longer intro originally, than before the entire track started. I had this really long intro, which appears to not be set up correctly. Let me just unmute all of this, see what's actually muted, and... Oh, it seems like it's already unmuted. It might just be in the automation clips that it's muted it. You know what? Instead of doing all this now, I'll just, like, at the very end of this video, I'll add a little bit at the very end and just where I tail this onto the end of it, because it might take me a little while to figure out, what the automation clips and everything is that is currently muting it. Anyway, I think that's pretty much just about it. Otherwise, yeah. So I guess I can tell you, all this automation here, which again, I've been very lazy and just thrown this at the very bottom instead of, on the same tracks or underneath each of the same tracks. But these are controlling all the parameters. So all the movement of everything you hear of, all the synths and, virtual libraries, whether that's the volume, whether that's, some effect parameter. Basically what it's doing is like, when you see dials like this in anything, you can, again, create an automation clip, so it automatically moves in certain ways, as I explained earlier with, like, this thing here. And yeah, I've just done that with a lot of different things, whether it's expression, volume, free filters, so, like, low pass, high pass, that sort of thing. Yeah, channel volume, as I said, yeah, a lot of stuff. Sometimes even using it as a sidechain, as you can see here. When I'm too lazy to just connect one preset to a sidechain channel. In a way, though, this probably takes more effort. I kind of like doing stuff manually sometimes, just because you can fine tune it a little bit more. Like this, when you're using automation, automation filters, you can really just go to town with fine tuning exactly how much you want stuff to be automated. So yeah, that's what I've done here. Obviously a bit of sidechain, and yeah, gradually bringing stuff in over the course of like a verse. So it's like a gradual build up, nothing too fancy, just a lot of free filters. So like low passing, which is, where you have, the high frequencies of, a track cut out, and then you gradually bring them in over time. So it gradually becomes fuller, and that really helps build stuff out. Nothing really too fancy, honestly. And yeah. So yeah, that's pretty much about it, really. It might look all a lot more technical for those of you who don't produce. For those of you who do, you're probably rolling your eyes a little bit at just how unprofessional a lot of my production is. Big props to, again, my mixing and mastering engineer, Fabio, who, really brings this to life a lot more from what you probably heard here. You'll notice the final mix sounds a lot fuller and bigger. All that kind of thing I just have no clue about. I mean, I know the basics, but not to an extent where I can make something as, dense as this sound anywhere near decent. From a mix perspective, at least. I'm more interested in, the musical side of things and the arranging side of things than the actual, technical get it to sound as loud as possible while also keeping it under 0 dB and without sounding distorted kind of thing. I just hate doing that. It just really is not enjoyable to me at all. Really all I do is just turn down the master to -8 and then so nothing's clipping, and then that's how I produce, which again, that's probably not a professional way to do it. I don't know. Yeah, that's anyway, that's pretty much it. So yeah, thank you for watching.